When Benjamin and Margaret Hillcrest, a modest elderly couple, arrive at Sterling Tower, they're coldly dismissed by the building manager, Trevor, who deems them unfit for the luxury lifestyle. But the very next day, the Hillcrests return with a revelation that leaves everyone stunned. They're the new owners of the entire building. Watch till the end to find out what happens next. But before we dive in, leave a comment and let us know where you are watching from today. And if this story speaks to you, hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories. Benjamin and Margaret Hillcrest, an elderly couple dressed in modest attire, stepped into the pristine lobby of the exclusive Sterling Tower. Known for its sleek design, high-end amenities, and breathtaking views, the building was one of the most sought-after luxury condos in the city. But despite its outward appeal, the Sterling had earned a reputation for catering only to the elite, often judging clients based on appearance and wealth. The elderly couple appeared out of place amid the modern furnishings and marble floors. Benjamin, with his slightly scuffed shoes and faded jacket, held Margaret's arm protectively as they approached the front desk. Margaret, with her gentle demeanor and warm smile, glanced around, clearly fascinated by the sleek, modern interior. But to the young, ambitious building manager, Trevor Grant, they were nothing but an inconvenience. Trevor, dressed in a sharply tailored suit and with a polished air of professionalism, glanced up as the Hillcrests approached. His smile wavered for a brief second, replaced by a look of thinly veiled disdain. He had dealt with his share of curious visitors, who wanted a glimpse of the lifestyle but could never afford it. And from the looks of the elderly couple, Trevor quickly assessed that they were unlikely to become tenants. With a forced smile, he greeted them. "Good afternoon. Are you here to see someone?" Benjamin nodded politely. "Yes, my wife and I are interested in touring the penthouse units," he said with a quiet confidence that Trevor mistook for naivety. Trevor stifled a laugh, his voice dripping with skepticism. "I'm afraid we have a strict policy here. Only pre-approved clients can tour the penthouses. They're exclusive properties, you understand." Margaret looked disappointed but tried to remain cheerful. "We understand. It's just that we've heard such wonderful things about the building and thought it would be nice to see the space." Trevor's patience thinned. "I'm sure you have, but these units are priced at over $10 million. They're highly sought after and not really open to the public." He forced a smile, dismissing them with a look that suggested they didn't belong. Benjamin met Trevor's gaze, unruffled. "We may not look the part, but I assure you, we're quite serious." Trevor couldn't help but smirk. "I'm sure you are," he replied, making a dismissive gesture toward the door. "Perhaps there's a more suitable property for you a few blocks down. They have lovely units at a reasonable price range." The Hillcrests exchanged a look, their initial surprise melting into a quiet understanding. Benjamin gave a small nod, thanking Trevor for his time before leading Margaret back toward the entrance. As they stepped outside, Margaret looked at her husband, concern etched on her face. "I suppose it's just the way of the world," she said softly. But it was disappointing to be dismissed so quickly. Benjamin smiled gently, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "Perhaps he's right about one thing," he said thoughtfully. "We don't belong as tenants here." Margaret looked at him in surprise as he pulled out his phone, dialing a contact he hadn't reached out to in years. "If he won't let us look around, perhaps we need to explore our options differently." The couple returned home, and Benjamin spent the night making calls to old connections. As it turned out, the Sterling Tower was owned by a private firm with whom he had done business decades earlier. After a few conversations, a series of decisions set into motion, ones that would change the lives of the Sterling staff in ways they could never imagine. The next morning, Sterling Tower buzzed with activity. Rumors had started to swirl about a possible buyout, leaving the staff anxious and uncertain. Trevor was among the first to arrive, brushing off the whispers of change as mere speculation. He was certain his job was secure. After all, he'd been the building manager for years, expertly selecting tenants who added prestige to the property. But by midday, the official announcement came, causing a stir. The entire staff gathered in the lobby, where a representative from the new ownership group introduced Benjamin and Margaret Hillcrest, the very couple Trevor had turned away, as the new owners of Sterling Tower. Trevor's face went pale as he recognized them. He swallowed hard, trying to compose himself as Benjamin stepped forward with a warm but determined smile. "Good morning," Benjamin began, his voice steady yet kind. My wife and I have recently acquired Sterling Tower, and we're excited to begin this new chapter with all of you. Trevor felt his heart race as Benjamin's words sank in. The elderly couple he'd dismissed so casually were now his employers. Once the initial shock wore off, Benjamin continued. As new owners, we plan to make a few adjustments to the building's policies, he announced, his gaze moving to Trevor briefly, sending a clear message. We value community and believe in treating everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance or background. The Hillcrests wasted no time implementing their vision. They introduced a more inclusive tenant policy, one that welcomed people from all walks of life, as long as they contributed positively to the building community. They even invited the elderly and young professionals alike, giving priority to those who had previously been turned away for lacking the elite appearance Trevor so carefully curated. Benjamin and Margaret also made a point of meeting every staff member personally, making sure each felt valued. Housekeeping, security, and maintenance workers, who had often gone unnoticed, were now acknowledged and appreciated. One day, Margaret invited Trevor for a private conversation. Seated across from him, she spoke gently yet firmly. Trevor, I want you to know that we value hard work and dedication. However, we believe that everyone who walks through those doors deserves a fair chance. Judging people on their appearance alone doesn't align with our vision for Sterling. Trevor, feeling a mix of shame and anger, nodded, realizing he had little choice but to comply. The Hillcrests had made it clear, they would not tolerate discrimination or elitism under their ownership. The weeks that followed marked a transformation not only in the building but also in Trevor. He had to swallow his pride, adapting to a more welcoming approach with each potential tenant. The elderly couple's influence changed his perspective, and slowly, he began to see the value in treating people with respect, regardless of their outward appearance. One day, as he helped an elderly resident with her groceries, Trevor found himself smiling, genuinely enjoying the connection. He realized that Sterling Tower had become more than just a symbol of luxury. It was now a community, thanks to the Hillcrests' influence. The Hillcrests' vision continued to unfold, and the building became a haven of warmth and inclusion. High-profile events were replaced with gatherings for residents to get to know one another, and a real sense of community blossomed. The staff, once treated as mere background, were now part of the Sterling family. Months later, Benjamin called the staff together for a meeting. He stood before them, gratitude and pride evident on his face. We've seen so many positive changes here, and we couldn't be prouder of each and every one of you, he said, pausing to look around the room. My wife and I are moving into Sterling as well. We want to be part of this community in a way that's meaningful. The room erupted in applause, staff members thrilled that the couple they'd come to admire would be living among them. As Benjamin and Margaret took their places as both owners and residents, they brought with them a legacy of kindness, humility, and respect, values that would define Sterling Tower for years to come. And for Trevor, the experience left a profound impact, reminding him that true wealth wasn't about appearances or exclusivity, but about the way people treated each other. He had learned the hard way, but it was a lesson he would carry with him forever.